This video is about eclipses through the houses and how they impact us. So welcome today. I recently did another video seeing that we are in eclipse season on what eclipses are and what the nodes of the moon are. So I will link that at the end. But today, since we are still in the middle of two eclipses, I wanted to share what eclipses through the houses could mean for us. So in any given calendar year, we can have anywhere from 4 to 6 eclipses in a year. Normally it averages on 4 to 5, and depending on where they fall, if there's one very early in January, very late in December, we can have 6 eclipses in 1 year, which in fact will happen in 2029. So 2029 is a very fast moving year where a lot of change can happen for all of us. So as far as eclipses go, you can watch the other video. They happen close to where the nodes of the moon are traveling. And what will usually happen with eclipses is they bring a sense of faster moving evolution into our lives. Sudden changes where the eclipse is impacting you, endings and beginnings of certain things, changes of direction that you didn't see coming. And all of these things, of course, impact us on an individual level. Even if you have no planets or points in a given house, the eclipse falling there will still influence you to a certain degree. Of course, the closer the eclipse impacts your personal points or planets, or forms aspects to your personal points and planets, the more you will feel what is actually happening for you with that particular eclipse. Now, when it comes to eclipses, they happen in opposite houses. So what happens for us is that we become much more aware of the dynamics of one house and the house opposite. There's a sense when eclipses are happening in these opposite houses that we are balancing out these energies. We are feeling where we need to move into more, where we need to reduce, where things are changing and shifting and balancing out naturally through this faster evolution and beginnings and endings that eclipses can bring. Now, usually what will happen, because the nodes of the moon are opposite each other, eclipses will fall in directly opposite houses, like for instance Leo and Aquarius. But when the node is still maybe sitting at the very end of Aquarius, we can still have an eclipse that falls in Pisces. So that is why we don't have eclipses always exactly in opposite houses. Yes, that is where the nodes are, but the eclipses also happen close to the nodes. So what we'll see in 2026 is that we'll actually have eclipses in 4 different signs. So this happens as the nodes are still close to the beginning and the ending of a sign. And then we have what is called out of sign eclipses. So even though there's eclipses happening in these different houses, it's still creating balance and greater insight in these houses that are opposite each other. So I'm going to go through the houses in these pairs so that you can feel how these things play out for us. The first house and the 7th house are opposite each other. And that is where the balance will happen when eclipses fall in these houses for you. The first house is all about you, who you are, your personality, how you show up in the world, It is your look, your style, how you wear your hair. It is your general appearance in the world. It is rediscovering who you are. Often when eclipses flow through the first house, there's a big change in who we are and how we present ourselves to the world. And it's also about, how do I impact my relationships? Because the first house is all about us, the individual in the chart. Now, the seventh house opposite the first house, this is all about relationships, partners, romantic partners, business partners, close friends, clients. It is our relationships and it is our relationship needs. And it is also how our relationships actually impact us. So in the sense that we view astrology, there are certain parts of the chart that simultaneously represent us and represent people in our lives. So for instance, if you have a romantic partner or a business partner and an eclipse happens in the seventh house, this eclipse can actually impact your partner and therefore impact you. So there's many layers to how these things can play out. And it is how the first and the seventh house impact each other. And when the eclipses are flowing through these two houses, we are creating balance and insight through these houses. And then we get to the pair of the second house and the eighth house. Now again, the second house is about you. It is about your wealth, your money, your resources, your skills, your self-esteem. It is a place of your physical needs and where you identify with material resources in the world. And sometimes when we even feel we don't have skills or resources, it's also about our resourcefulness. How resourceful can you be to bring the resources into your life, to work with how you are going to satisfy your physical needs in the material world? Now, the opposite house, the eighth house, this is all about shared resources. The eighth house is also a very esoteric place where it deals with death and rebirth. And this is metaphorically and literally. You know, some people will be in a lifetime where they have emphasis on the eighth house, where they may deal with a lot of people passing away, leaving this physical reality. And that is one of the parts of this specific lifetime where that person is evolving and changing by having these challenging experiences. Now, the shared resources in the eighth house is all about other people's wealth, other people's money, other people's resources, and how we give and receive from the second house. And it's also about emotional and sexual intimacy and needs in the eighth house, and how we give and receive in relationships. We are developing the balance of give and take because sometimes it is not there. And in the second house, eighth house eclipses, we will go through periods where we are seeing imbalances, and then we are healing and evolving and creating more balance in these houses. So with the eighth house, it really is about sharing of emotional, mental, physical intimacy, as well as sharing of resources and wealth. And often in the eighth house, we can also deal with things that are not of an intimate nature, that may be to do with getting tax back in a lump sum, or receiving an inheritance, from somebody that's maybe even a distant relative, or winning the lotto. All of these lump sums of money that we can receive also fall in the eighth house. And then we get to the next pair, which is the third and the ninth house. Now, this is very interesting. The third house is all about your day-to-day mind, your thought patterns, how you communicate, how you use your intellect. It is short distance travel, the neighborhood that you live in. So in that sense, it's your neighborhood, inner and outer, because it's your neighborhood inside your mind as well. And the third house is all about refining information and knowledge and how you use that. And the third house is also about siblings and extended family. And it is about testing and following rules, because the ninth house is about the law and about rules. Now, the ninth house is more about the higher mind, higher learning. It's where we connect to our spirituality, our general philosophy of how we see life. It's where we connect to people that come and teach us. In our younger life, and even as adults, our parents also can show up in the ninth house as our teachers. It's about learning from teachers, and sometimes it's about that transcendence place where we become a teacher of some sort. The ninth house, opposite the third house, is about long distance travel and distant places, where the third house is about short distance travel and local places. The ninth house is about other cultures. It can be about that long distance travel. I've also seen in the ninth house that it can still be local when you have a certain transit through the ninth house, but suddenly you are dealing more with people from foreign cultures in your local vicinity. The ninth house is that place where we're receiving information and wisdom and knowledge. And like I said, the third house is then more the practical place where we are implementing the information and the knowledge and the wisdom, and see how we are adapting it to ourselves. And then the ninth house is that place of the law and the rules of society. And the third house, again, is that more local testing place where we are testing and following the rules, or bending the rules where we feel we don't want to follow. And again, when eclipses are happening in these houses, there's a balancing point between this local and this distant, and this mind and thoughts, and the higher mind and spirituality and connecting to higher things. And through these eclipses in the houses, we are creating greater insight and balance. And then we get to the fourth house and the 10th house. Now, the fourth house is all about your home. It is about family and ancestors. It's about genetics. The fourth house is the lowest point in your chart. So it is also your foundation. It's a physical foundation in the sense that it may be the house or the home that you live in. And it's also your foundation in terms of these are the physical, emotional, mental foundation that was laid for you in your childhood with your parents, that you may be experiencing and evolving through for your entire life. So because this is the lowest point of the chart, it is, and it's inside your home, it is your private life. Whereas the 10th house, which is opposite, is your public life. So the fourth house is that physical origin of who you are. And sometimes it can be very deep and spiritual, where in the fourth house we literally connect to um, other places that we feel very connected to in the cosmos that also feel like home to us. It can be genetics, and it is that place because it is your home. It's where you go after a day's work, close the doors. It's a place of rest and where you recuperate before you face the world, you face public life again. Now, again, the 10th house being opposite, the 10th house is our career. It is our public life, how we are seen out there. If you are not in a job, if you are a student, it's where you study, it's where you are seen in your public life as learning out there in the world as a student. Or if you are retired, it is the places and the hobbies that you connect to in your public life, or places you volunteer, public places that you show up in. And the 10th house is very much about our ability to impact the outer world. So how strong or how weak we feel in our career space, what we can bring, how can we impact the world. And when eclipses happen in this place, we can obviously have really endings and beginnings and fast evolution in this career space. So this is a place where you bring your public authority, whereas the home is that opposite place. The fourth house is the home, it's your foundation. And again, when eclipses are happening through these houses, there's a sense of balancing. And then we get to the 5th house and the 11th house. Now, the 5th house is often called the house of joy. It's a house of great creativity. It's where we really connect to that creative force within us. What inspires you right now? What excites you? Where do you want to put your creative energy into? Where do you feel alive? It is the house of our creative outlets and our creative expression, our hobbies, our leisure time. And because it is that sense of creative expression, it's also the house of children, the house of pregnancy as well, because creating a child is the ultimate creative act that we do as humans. So there's a sense of creation here, of how we connect to that spark of what inspires us, what brings us joy. Maybe in a more of an individual sense. And then we go to the opposite, which is the 11th house. And this is where we connect to groups. And this can be peers as well. So for instance, if you are in a career maybe where you are a singular service provider, the peers that you connect to in that career also falls in the 11th house. It can be if you are in an office or other employment scenario, it is the people, the groups that you connect to in your career space, your colleagues. It's also groups in the sense of clubs and leisurely things that you can belong to. The 11th house is also a place of where we connect to benefactors. Often in the 11th house, we connect to people who suddenly show up in our lives that come and assist us, give us a lift in the world, to create what we want to create, to be what we want to be. It is that house where we connect to our hopes and dreams. And it's that house of the response that we receive from groups and peers in our lives regarding our own expression. So sometimes in life, we will feel like we are so unique. We can't necessarily at this moment connect to a lot of people, or sometimes we even feel shunned by people because we are going through a phase where our expression is so unique, that we feel left out. So the balance here between the 5th house and the 11th house is very much finding that balance between how am I expressing myself in my creativity, in my joy, and how am I being received by others. And sometimes we need to make an adjustment in either place to feel more balanced in this way. And then we get to the 6th house and the 12th house. Now, the 6th house is all about work and daily schedules. The 6th house is that nitty-gritty of all the things we have to do every day to make life run. The 6th house is almost like that energy of the hamster wheel, where it's the daily schedules. It's a feeling of this is what I have to do to make my life work. And of course, sometimes this is true or not, but that's the feeling of the 6th house of like, this is my schedule. I have to get these things done in the day. So many meetings, grocery shopping, picking up the children, all of these scheduled things that have to fit into a day to make it work. And the 6th house is also about your health, more so about physical health. Sometimes it deals with mental health. It is a place where sometimes, because of this hamster wheel kind of feeling in the 6th house, we feel that it's a place of struggle. It's that place where we sometimes feel we need to push, to get through something. And it is also the house that was seen in the ancient times as the house of open enemies. And this may sound a little bit harsh, but how I see this playing out for us as individuals is often when we are having a transit in the 6th house, you can have somebody show up in your life, a colleague or a boss that literally feels like an adversary, that there's something that you need to work through with this person, where it can really feel like they bring this strong energy of adversary and you have to work through this. With the 6th house, it can sometimes feel exhausting because it is that part of us where we spend a lot of energy. It's the daily grind that we are into to get through our lives. And then the 12th house, opposite the 6th house. So where the 6th house is about physical health, the 12th house is more about mental health. And the 12th house is a liminal space. It is that place that we're in before we even born onto this planet. So it's a place where we are connected to different frequencies and different realms. It's a place of spirituality. It's a place of intuition. It's a place where we deal with our subconscious mind. And of course, this can be in positive and negative ways. So when we're having a transit or eclipses through the 12th house, there's often real mental challenges that can come that we need to heal and transform in order to transcend what is happening in our lives. The 12th house is also often a place of alone time, and therefore the 12th house is associated with those times in our lives when we are on a retreat, or we are spending time in hospital, or generally just spending a lot of time by yourself. This all falls in the 12th house. And opposite the 6th house is that place of busyness where we spend a lot of energy. And the 12th house is more a place of where we want to conserve our energy. It's a place of resting. It's a place of alone time. It's that place where we connect to our yoga practice that we do by ourselves, our meditation that we do by ourselves, in our spiritual life. So again, when the eclipses are happening in these houses, it's a balancing of these energies. How much energy are you expending? Maybe like, where do you feel you need to expend energy where it's maybe not true for you anymore, and then you maybe need to spend more time alone and on your spirituality and on your relaxation time, and finding a balance with these things. So again, I hope this was helpful for you. Eclipses will usually spend about 18 months in these pairs of houses, and also then in the houses next to these pairs. Sometimes, depending on, again, the season and how things are configured, we can have eclipses in these pairs of houses for 2 years. So anywhere between 18 months and 2 years. And it is a place of fast evolution and changes of direction, endings and beginnings. And it's actually, sometimes it can feel in eclipse season like a rug really is being pulled from under you, and you kind of lose your footing and your balance for a while. But usually there's always solutions and ways to integrate and see a solution and move on and find a new direction. So this is what I have for you today. I hope that you will enjoy this, and get in touch with me if you would like a personal session and explore what is evolving in your life right now. If you would like to see yourself and your current experiences from a deeper place, and also connect to me through my monthly offerings, I will put all the links for that below. Please share this with others if you find value here. I really appreciate your comments, and I will see you again soon.